Concetta Defa. She's worked in the skilled trades herself. She's built relationships with employers across the energy sector. And through Hire PowHER, a Get Into Energy initiative, she's on a mission to make sure more women see themselves in careers that could change their lives.
Welcome to Skilled Nation, where hard work meets real opportunity. From welding and electrical to HVAC and the trades that keep this country running, this is where skills turn into careers. Skilled Nation is sponsored by Tulsa Welding School. It's a way of life, a badge of honor.
Like, what's the elevator pitch for, like, when you're booking a guest, when you need to, like, convey Hire PowHER quickly? How do you define the problem? How you define how you're addressing it, and what do you do? What do you do that's uniquely addressing this problem?
Mostly we are reaching out to other women who are already in the industry,
Okay.
because that's the biggest part of the problem, is that visibility, right? Let's see these women out there, the ones that are out there in the work that who you could run across. And then we talk about how you get started, right? If you're in an area, we can connect you to some mentors that are in the trades from your area, that will help you, because it's different, right? And that's a lot what we talk about. And we talk about that with women who are moms, who are overcoming some different challenges that they've had, because childcare is not easy in this industry.
Yeah, I would
Right.
imagine,
So we're
yeah.
going to talk about the realness of that. And sometimes I'll reach out and say, hey, I need to find some moms out there so we can talk about, we just did one where we were talking about pregnancy, like what happens when you're pregnant out there in the trades, you know? So we're trying to reach out to talk to all the different kinds of women that are in the trades, so we can let all the women that are thinking about, or maybe they're not thinking about and just never knew, but they get to see somebody that looks like them, or that maybe has some of the same experience as them, so they know that it's whatever obstacle there might be, it's easy, not easy, but it can be overcome, and that there's resources out there. So when we're looking for our guests, short pitch is, why don't you come on and talk about your experience, and we'll go from there. And then, the women, we're egocentric. So skilled tradespeople, we'll talk about how proud we are about what we do all day long. And that doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. Just call them up. Hey, what do you want to talk about? We're going to talk about whatever it is you do out there.
Sign me up.
And
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
that's a
sign me
pretty
up.
good pitch.
Yeah, that's all. Let's talk about you. So
People love that. When people see themselves in people doing this, it makes it seem more real. It makes it seem more achievable. And I love that you brought up sports kind of as a metaphor, because women's sports is clearly, just like in the last, 5-10 years, exploded compared to what it was previously. And it kind of took a Title IX, right, for that to happen. But Title IX, it didn't happen overnight. Title IX is like a 30, 40-year-old legislation.
Yeah.
So what was the tipping point, and do you see a tipping point in awareness for women in the trades?
I think we're approaching that tipping point. I'm seeing more and more women out there, not enough, but I'm seeing more and more women out there. And so everybody talks about, it's like Rosie the Riveter in World War II, and they needed us out there. But I think we're past the tipping point in the way of, I don't think they're going to be able to come back at the end of this and say, just tricking.
Just go back.
We're
Yeah.
good now, go back. And so I think we're past the tipping point when it comes to that, right? But I have noticed, not only do we have more women out there on the tools, there's also a lot more women in leadership roles. And I think if those women can, with those two things in mind, I think we're not not past the tipping point, but we're circling around it. We're doing all these things, and I want to say that it's going to happen soon, but I just don't know, where it's just like, boom, women are normal.
Yeah. Well,
When I
see that
compare-
there's a lot of stuff like that, though, where it happens gradually and then all at once, right?
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah, and I think that's what we're going to see.
So
We're just going to turn around, and all of a sudden,
you talk about Rosie the Riveter, and that was a time, World War II, right, where there was just a need. We needed hands in the warehouses. We're hearing this a lot with energy careers. It's almost a term that I think is ill-defined. What do we mean by energy careers? Because that's what I'm hearing about, the most, where it's like there's such a shortage. We need. What is an energy career? What are we missing in this picture?
So God, it's energy is such a big bucket when it comes to careers. But when we talk about the skilled trades, if you look at our energy infrastructure, it's aging, the demand is higher, so we've got to build more distribution and power generation, and the demand of that. That's what's going to drive that. That it's going to be the skilled trades that build all that stuff, and that's what's driving this demand right now. But like I said, there's everything. You know, we had somebody on our podcast that was a painter, and nobody thinks about a painter being part of the energy industry, but or when you flip on your light switch, you're not thinking, well, a painter played a part in that. But that's who does protective coatings and things like that at a lot of these generation sites. And so they'll be at all your different power generation type of sites as well. And people just don't think of that. So anything that just about anything that you want to be when you grow up, we can find a home for that in the energy industry. But the skilled trades, that's a hard one. That's a hard one to get filled because you have to. The energy industry is fighting over the same workforce that the general construction industry has,
Right?
Because there's not enough.
So they're
just
fighting for a
passing people
limited
back and
pool.
forth.
Yeah. So if they're fighting for a limited pool, why would any employer want to cut the pool of available talent in half? Right? If you look at the population being roughly 50-50. So, you know, what is the case and what is the holdup on the corporate side, on the company side, from making these hires? And what's the pitch that people such as yourself and us as advocates can make for these hires beyond, oh, it's the right thing to do? Because as you said, they don't give a rat's ass about the right thing to do. They're looking at a spreadsheet and they want to make money, and they want to know that they're bringing in people who know how to do the job. So, you know, how do you get the scales to drop off their eyes and see, stop cutting your workforce potential in half?
I think you know, I think a lot of the employers are there, but they're not. They don't know what it looks like. They know they can't. They know they need women in the workforce, but I think a lot of them are unsure about what that would really look like in their workforce, right?
So they're not against it, but it's just still really unfamiliar? Is that what you're...
Yeah, so how does that change? Like, what do we have to do? Do we have to now, here's some things that women bring, like, do we have to change our policies or do something different out in the field? And I've had employers say, we want the women out there, we want to buy the stuff that they need, we can't find it, right?
Oh, really?
That's the other challenge, right? So
Okay.
now we have manufacturers of PPE and clothing and boots and that, we're seeing that rise again. Or rise, not for the first time probably. But for a long time, you couldn't even get the stuff that you needed to keep your women safe out on the job site because the entire industry was created around men.
But you're seeing some of that changing. Now you can get a pair of work boots, you can get the properly sized gloves, you can get all the PPE you need. What about attitudes? We've said that it was less I'm against it than I'm unfamiliar with it. Is the familiarity accelerating, implementation? Is the familiarity with women on the job resulting in more hiring of women for the jobs?
I think in certain areas, when you're looking at the bigger projects that have a lot more people, you're going to see a lot more women there. I think there still is challenges in a lot of areas of having not enough women out there. So when a woman does walk on the job, some of the things that were happening 20, 30 years ago when I started are still happening. I think you still see that where, they might send a woman out there and not the people in the field are like, I don't know what to do with her. And so they go clean the brake trailer. I absolutely believe that stuff is still happening. So that's where the importance of the work that we're doing now is like, okay, let's connect you with somebody that you can talk to that can help you to kind of navigate situations like that, because it's going to happen. There's still, like it or not, there are still people out there who aren't on board with women out there.
Yeah.
Right. And we run across those, but I think we're running into it less and less, really, in the grand scheme of things. I've seen where guys have, really stood up and said, hey, wait a minute, you can't treat my sister that way, I'm starting to see that stuff more and more, which I love. It's long time overdue, but I am seeing a lot of good folks out there, good brothers out there that They're all about it. And the younger generation, they don't even know that there was a challenge.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. You talk to 20 to 25-year-olds and they're like, well, yeah, of course we belong out there.
That is so
It's,
badass. And also,
yeah,
it makes you feel a little bit better as kind of that pivot generation,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Who took it
absolutely.
from, there was always going to be a lot of sexism, there was always going to be a lot of stereotyping, there's always going to be all these barriers, right? To, which means that your generation had to take a lot of lumps to make it, this, of course I would do this for the 20-year-olds. So
Yeah.
thank
We
you
can
for
talk
taking
about
those
lumps.
lumps. And do you still feel you have to give? I mean, I'm glad you're reality checking this a little bit, because it's like, there could still be those challenges. Do you feel you have to have that need? I think of like a black family where the dad has to talk to the son and say, if you're pulled over, here's what you do. And it's a terrible conversation to have. No parent should have to have that fear, right, in society. And yet, you probably should have that conversation. What's that difficult conversation for your mentees, or for the people, for the women specifically, that you're bringing into the trades? What are the reality checks?
A lot like what you just said. The reality checks are, you are out there and you will there. It's lonely. You could be out there and be the only woman, or just a handful of women out there. You are going to be surrounded by all men, and not all of them are going to. It's like anywhere else. You can be surrounded by people and all the same things that women do on a daily basis. Anywhere else, they still will have to do on a construction site, with a little extra caveats that there's not somebody right there, or insulation by a group. Like, you go out with all your girlfriends, and women travel in packs to the bathroom a lot of times. Well, that's not going to happen on a construction site, right? So, but you're still going to have to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Things there's still people everywhere, right?
It's infuriating, isn't it?
Yep. And sometimes it's like, hey, if something's happening out there, we got to take a step back, and you got to decide, is I hate having this conversation, but one, are you having the issues you're having because you're a woman, or because you're new? Let's figure that out first, because sometimes it's just because you're new. You talked about here you're going to do all the grunt work. Well, sometimes it's because you're new. And so to talk to somebody about that, like, is it, if it might just be normal because you're new, and everybody goes through that. Let's talk about that first. Then, okay, if it does seem like it's something because you're a woman, the reality is you've got to pick your battle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it big enough to go into that battle? Does it make sense for you to go in that battle? Do you want to go into that battle off principle? Do you want to just know that what we do, it's all temporary, and if you're in a place, as long as it's not unsafe, right? If you're working somewhere where the guys don't know how to treat you, or they're treating you poorly, what other options do you have to make that different? Like, does it make sense for you to go somewhere else? And I'm not saying that's always going to be the answer, but we got to talk about it, because sometimes when you're new, especially, and you haven't had the ability or the chance to build a reputation around how good you are at your job, if you go making a complaint because something is happening, we're still to the point where that can end your career. And that's not a good place. That's not comfortable. I hope that changes. I hope it changes soon. But we see it all the time, where there's an issue going out on the job site, and the women, they want to say, well, why don't they report it? Well, because for us, it's career ending.
Yeah.
We're one woman reports something, and we all take a hit from it, because we're all just one big woman for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, and you know what? That's what you're working to change, right?
Yep.
By getting
Yep.
more women on the job. Because honestly, I think once you get more of a balanced workforce, right, you just have advocacy.
away.
Yeah, you have advocacy, you have familiarity, and also you get the respect. This is a coworker.
Yep. And we don't have to show up to represent every single person out there, right? We can just show up and be us.
Yeah, you're not just,
And
you represent all women.
Yeah, yeah. It is so funny how that happens. God, somebody's talking about me. My nose is itching. It's funny how that happens. I have to laugh. There was somebody that swore they knew me, And they ran into somebody that knew me really well, and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, I know her," and told this whole story, and it was like 4 different women's stories all wrapped up into one and under my name. And I'm like, none of that was me,
Yeah,
but I
but
know all the women that was.
you're the name that she knew, though,
Yeah,
so that's why.
right, right.
We're
So it's funny.
talking to
We get
Concetta
it.
Defa. Hire PowHER is her podcast. This is Skilled Nation. We're podcast buddies now. And
Yeah.
what's a change? Let's flip it a little bit to the positive.
Right.
Tell me about an individual. Tell me about somebody that really struck a chord with you, that made you realize, wow, I'm doing something good here. When you saw someone change their life, change her trajectory, find fulfillment. Does anybody stand out?
But there's one in particular that comes to mind, and a lot of them are single moms, like that come through, and they've been in a situation like we've had. One that's really super impressive is she was actually homeless for a period of time, and then came through pre-apprenticeship with our program, and then went into doing electrical and telecommunication work, and now is almost done with her apprenticeship, and she's now off all any kind of state aid. She's got housed with her and her kids and
Oh, that's
insurance
great.
and all the things, and she's just. But she never knew it was an option. She never knew that she did have an opportunity to make enough money and have insurance and all the things until she learned about the trades. We've got, another mom that was working, 3, 4 jobs just to stay afloat. And now she's, in her, I think, 3rd year of apprenticeship, and now has got the ability to not have all the other jobs. And she actually gets to spend more time with her son. So all of those make a difference. Like, that's just, to me, it's beautiful. It's doing so many different things out there. And there's so many women that have confidence. Like, they come in with like really kind of not sure, and then they get to go out there and they get to learn how to do all of these things and work with tools and fix things and build things, and the amount of confidence that I've seen come with it, they're like ready to take on the world. They're proud. They're what they get to symbolize for their children. I can't even tell you how much good. So there's several that stand out for me just for that. Once they decide to go in and get after it, man, the sky's the limit for them, and I'm very proud of all of them.
How does that make you feel? Like, you've had that impact. I mean, how does that make you feel when you see that?
Those wins, that's what actually keeps me through the tough times, right? Those wins are what make me know that, one, I need to fight like hell to continue to do what I'm doing, right? And so we've got to do everything we can to keep the programs, like mine and Hire PowHER and the podcast and all the work that's being done across the country with all of the different tradeswomen groups and energy sector employers that are looking to expand their workforce. We just got to keep it going, because they all can have part of that. Like that feeling that I get, that, oh my gosh, I am so proud. It's like a proud mama almost. I'm so proud of all of these people that are going out there and just becoming these beautiful members of society that are thriving. And everybody out there, all of you already in the industry, employers, other workers, you all have the ability to have those little feel goods come back at you.
And they do.
And-
They feel
and-
so good.
It does, and I can make a lot of things about me. I do it because it makes me feel good. But it does. It's truly inspiring to see the future leaders as they come up and turn into who they're going to be.
And
It's truly inspiring.
And it ripples out, like you said, like that mom who suddenly didn't have to work 3, 4 jobs, could work 1 job, and now she gets to be a better mom to her kids. She gets to really be engaged. I won't say better mom, that was a poor choice of words, but she gets to be more
I know what you
engaged
mean,
with the
yeah.
parenting
Yeah.
aspect, the getting on the ground, the reading the books, the doing the things, that. And how does that pay forward? I mean, this could ripple out generations. So sometimes people end these conversations, these kinds of conversations, with the blank check question, right? If you had a blank check, what would you do with it? I'm going to do it a little bit differently. If we were really, really seriously going to say, we're going to change the pipeline, we're going to change how women perceive the trades, how they access the pipeline to enter the trades, where would you even start? You're the czar. You're the queen of the world. You can do anything. Paint the picture. What does it look like? And
Ooh,
where would you start?
yeah.
Where would you intervene on reality right now, and what changes would you make first?
Ooh, that's a tough one because there's so many things. I just want it to be, well, if we have 50, 50% of the workforce and 50% of the trades people are represented in the workforce, that's where we start, right?
Yeah.
Because everything else kind of solves itself. So I think if I had a blank check, the first thing that I would want to solve is childcare.
Oh,
Because
interesting.
I think that if you take all the other obstacles out, the energy and construction industries, depending on when as we're building infrastructure, it doesn't happen next door, right? If you're building a power generation plant, it doesn't always happen next door. If you are building a transmission line, it doesn't happen next door. But to get more women in the workforce, you're gonna have to get them in construction as well, and that is one of the biggest challenges is what childcare looks like.
I'm so glad you brought
for
that
the
up.
construction industry.
How do you do that? Do you go in and try to get legislation? Because a lot of this infrastructure is federally funded. Can you try to make that part of a set aside in that budget for childcare so that women could get those jobs? Or does it come from the employer? I mean, who does
think
that piece?
I think it's a big enough problem that I think everybody's got to take a bite out of that elephant, right? I
Okay.
think there's some really cool things that have been happening around the country that are tackling the childcare crisis, because it is a crisis, and I think it's across the entire country. And I think
It's every industry, right?
yeah, I think mega projects have the ability to start including something in to their projects to help, whether it's some sort of voucher or childcare on location. I was actually just talking with who's going to be my next podcast guest about these big mega projects when it comes to the energy industry, whether they're building, because now we've got data centers and they're building power generation within the data center's footprint, right? And so you get big projects like that, and some of these are 5 to 10 year campuses they're building out. Why couldn't you have an on-site childcare
For sure.
provided? So, but that's really the biggest challenge is childcare, and it's not just the access to it; it's the hours of it. It doesn't work on a construction schedule. And
Yeah.
so I think that one thing would solve so many things for both men and women out there in the industry is childcare. That's where the blank checks need to be.
That is a great insight. We're talking to Concetta Defa from Hire PowHER. That's a podcast, and she is also herself a mentor. She is also, we're going to say 30 years into her career in electrical. And what is one of the differences? Because, not everybody's the same, right? So I'm going to paint with broad strokes. But do women bring something to these careers that statistically, observationally, is different from men? And one of the things that I keep seeing coming up is the staying power, the building the career. Can you tell me what that observation is? Can you break it down for me?
Oh, I have several observations, but when we're talking about staying power, the things that women bring to the industry is a different way to tackle some of the things we do. So I talk about if we need longevity out of careers, we got to look at different ways to do it. So what I've noticed in construction is men typically, their answer to the things that they need to do is their strength, right? Physical strength. Well, I got to move this over here and I got to move this over there. When we come in as women, we don't necessarily have the same level of physical strength. Now, mind you, I know some women out there that definitely have way more strength than some of the men I know. So I'm not saying that women are weak and men are strong. We just don't use our bodies the same way. And
Right.
our first thought isn't, hey, we got to pick up this big thing. Our first thought is, how can we pick up this big thing? So I think when women come to the table, they're teaching, once they learn, and we've got to teach everybody these things, but they learn how to use tools and leverage and things that are going to save their bodies, allow them to do the job. And I think that will actually benefit the workforce in as a whole. Men can not, they shouldn't be broken down at the end of their careers either. So I think women really bring that to the table, the safety, the finding better ways to do it, because women, especially moms, have survival skills. They know how to manage hectic days and hectic schedules, because they, if you got a soccer mom going, I've got to have one kid over to this and one kid over to that. I've got to make sure that we have enough money. We got to buy groceries, but I can't go over this amount. They're controlling budgets. They're making scheduling work. They're doing all of that stuff, and they don't even realize that that's what you do on a construction site all day long. You make everything work
Yeah.
and keep everybody safe. And I think women bring that to the industry.
And I love the observation that by collaborating with women on the daily on a site, men could learn things that will protect themselves, their own bodies, extend their careers. Is there also a difference in the attitude one approaches a job with versus, I'm going to do a contract and split. I'm going to take a paycheck and split. Is there more of a freelance versus career, contract versus career orientation or preference among women, or is it pretty much the same?
Yeah, I've never thought of that in terms of gender, because, again, with the skilled trades, we go in there and it's part of who we are.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think, I don't think we think of it the same way. I think we go, okay, I'm going to work for this employer, and here I'm going to do my work. And if that job gets done, or if that work gets done and they don't need us, I'll go work for the next one. Or maybe some people work for the same employer their entire work life, and some people work for several. But I don't think we think about it the same way. I think we're like, I'm an electrician. Where can I be an electrician at? And that's why I'm going to go be an electrician there, right? I don't know if that's the necessarily.
So that's not a gender-based attitude difference?
I don't think so. Not in the skilled trades, because, like I said, we're egocentric, and we're going to be that electrician, and we're going to do it where we have the most opportunity to do it.
All right, Concetta, I'm going to ask you what's making you optimistic? What's making you excited about a couple of things? First of all, what right now is making you most excited, giving you the most optimism? And I'm not going to go with women in the trades. I'm going to start with the energy sector. Everything's moving so fast. What has you excited about the energy sector, both in terms of job prospects, where it's going, how it's going to manifest to just everybody, to consumers? What are the changes we're going to see, and what has you amped up? Amped. That was a joke. That was a pun.
Yeah, good time. Yeah, you're very punny. All right.
Oh,
so what
boy.
has me amped up? Well, currently, if you're an electrician.
You've heard them all. I can't compete.
No. So currently,
And
there's
you said it
so
again.
much. Here's another one. There's so much less resistance
Oh, no.
to. Okay, that's another. Okay, anyway, to whoever wants to be in the workforce should be in the workforce, right? And I think the thing that has me excited is there's a lot of talk everywhere you look, about how great these careers are, and really they're not necessarily focused to it's just scattergun. It's everybody, right? These are great careers, period.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're not, if you're blah, if you're this, or if you're that. These are great careers, period. And then I think with the stuff with the energy sector, it's a lot of opportunity for anybody that's going to go into these career fields, because the demand is going to be so high, and there's no way to get away from it. So it's going to be there. We've got to build, we've got to rebuild, we've got to repair. We're going to see different technologies that's going to change so fast that we will have to be just constantly upskilling as well, and that keeps everything interesting. That'll keep a career. Longevity is every time technology changes and you learn new things. It's just incredible. So I just don't see any other way than having more and more of us out there to get us through the problems that lie ahead. And I think these careers, you see things online all the time about robots and everything, and I don't think AI is it's gonna change the way we do our jobs, right?
Sure.
It's absolutely gonna change the way we do our job, but technology's always done that. But I think these are careers that are gonna keep us out there and with something to do, and I'm just excited about what's around the corner. Like, there's just so much. I couldn't even make it up. It's like, there are so many different ways to generate electricity. There's such a demand for it. They're going to solve that demand, and we're going to be part of it. We're going to build whatever they solve for, right? it's just exciting to me.
So what about, there's somebody who stumbled on this podcast, they've listened this long, and they're intrigued. What do you say to that person who might never have envisioned themselves in the skilled trades as a career path? What would you tell her about the first step? What is next? What's the next step? Same as the kind of blank check thing. How would you intervene with some advice for this person listening who just it's a disconnect, but now they're thinking about it?
Well, I think first off, go subscribe and watch the Hire PowHER, the Power Hour podcast that I
Absolutely.
host, because there's a lot of really good information on there. I think second, look what's in your area. Look at your local utilities that are hiring. Look at the apprenticeships, your building trades councils, your local unions. Look at your community colleges. Look and see what is in your area and build out your network. But if you don't know where to start or what that is, then you come over to hirepower.org, and there is everything you could click on that would give you the information for your area. And that's how I'd say start is let's find somebody that can guide you in your area and look in all those places for those apprenticeships and job opportunities.
Fantastic.
And go in there proud, man, just proud and eager.
Go pick a fight.
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that anymore.
Hey,
Yeah,
it worked
don't do
for
that.
you.
That's frowned upon, but that was a long time ago. It's frowned upon now, right?
Yeah.
So
I guess
go out
so.
and make friends. How's that?
All right, go make some friends. Well, since you already gave us the hirepower.org, what are the handles? What are the socials? Where can we find you? Tell us all the info so we know how to follow up and find you and like and subscribe and do all the things.
Yeah. So right now the podcast is I think anywhere that you can get podcasts, but on YouTube under Get Into Energy. On the socials, we're just Hire PowHER.
Hire PowHER with an H.
PowHER. Yeah. Everything. That's the handle for everything, everywhere.
Well, we'll make sure that people find you. We say it a lot here on Skilled Nation. The future of work isn't something that's just happening to us. It's something we build, and we build it together. What I love about today's conversation isn't that Concetta isn't, she's not waiting around. She's out there creating pathways. She's knocking down barriers. She's making sure the next generation doesn't have to figure it out alone. So Concetta, thank you for your time. Thank you for your passion. Thanks for everything you're doing to build the workforce that this country needs.